Rob, can you play this clip of what the Pope did, Catholic Church, not Protestant, what they did, which is kind of weird. Let me read the caption first before you play the clip, if you don't mind, Rob. If you just make it smaller like you did. There you go. What does it say there? Pope Francis had lunch with a bunch of men who think they're women. How do my Catholic friends feel about this on the heels of Francis's move to allow trans baptism godparents? This is Rob Starbuck. Okay, go ahead and play this clip.
Hello.
So these are transgender men going where, Rob? They're going to
lunch. I think lunch with the Pope.
Are they like a bunch of billionaires that are about to give money to the church, or what's the occasion? Okay. Jeremy, you see something like this. What do you think about this? What do you think about, somebody may say, well, they just went to the event. It's not like he is sitting there directly with them. But what do you think about the position the Pope is taking with Catholics? Mm-hmm. And he's commented on the LGBTQ stuff multiple times, and he's commented on socialism before multiple times. How do you process this?
Well, I think it's important to start by saying I'm not Catholic. I pointed out earlier that I'm radically Protestant. I appreciate about Catholicism that it is a traditional foundation within a society. And, I think that tradition really matters. It's important to have heritage. It's important to have a connection to your heritage. One of the problems that we have in the world right now is a kind of radical individualism, which disconnects us from community. And you can't have a culture without a community. You can't have a nation without a community. And so organizations like the Catholic Church are really important, even though I have theological disagreement with the Catholic Church. I don't view my role in the world as much as I want to fight against coercion. That doesn't mean that I don't want there to be a common culture. It doesn't mean that I want to throw out everything that's allowed us. In fact, if anything, I think that part of our job in the world is to build a future on the best ideas of the past. That's what separates me from being a part of the left, who wants to throw out the past as unambiguously evil and create something on the basis of nothing except fantasy and dream. I want to continually refine and hopefully build on the best ideas that have been passed down to us. And the Catholic Church is very important in that regard, to the extent that I don't know what Pope Francis is trying to accomplish. It seems from, I think any observer could say that this is not a conservative pope. He comes from, a liberation theology, South American kind of background. He's very hostile toward America and Americanism. I think that he sees the sort of unique American experiment as being antithetical to his papacy. I would not consider myself a friend of the Pope. So I don't know what he's trying to accomplish. Is he trying to make a political statement? Seems like it. Is he trying to make a theological statement about, how we cannot not deny grace to people simply on the basis of them being sinners? Well, if that's what he's trying to do, I probably agree with him. If you're a saint, you don't need grace. And the entire premise of Christianity is that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God and are redeemed through Christ alone. So to some degree, just watching the clip, am I unsettled by the clip? Certainly. Can I say that I wildly disagree with what the Pope is trying to accomplish? I don't know what he's trying to accomplish, so it's hard to say. If he's trying to in any way mainstream the behavior itself, if he's trying in any way to say this thing that you think is bad is good and now has my blessing, well, I would think that was a really egregious and evil act. But I wouldn't, from just watching. I don't know the story. I would not.
Well, let me ask you a different question. Let's just say you at Daily Wire are hosting a open event, okay? Not by invitation, but open event where I can buy tickets to attend it.
Sure.
And the attendance is 500 people for a dinner. Let's just say.
Sure.
Would you be opposed to 50 transgenders buying tickets to attend this Daily Wire dinner?
Oh well, I may not like it, but to say would I be opposed to it, if I have to be responsible for my actions. If I have an open dinner and people buy tickets, then they have to be welcome at the event. That's the nature of.
So if that was the case, then the media comes back and says, Jeremy Boring, CEO of the conservative company Daily Wire, has dinner with transgenders, right?
Sure.
How should that person be judged? Is the market going to say the conservative is trying to cave to the left? I'm trying to be as fair to the Pope as possible because I'm being literally the devil's advocate of the devil's advocate, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, the thing about the Pope is he has one of the loudest microphones in the world, and my microphone is not nearly so loud as the Pope's, but I have a fairly prominent microphone myself. So I suppose that if the media were to come back and say, Jeremy had a dinner, and here he is having dinner with trans people, I'm more than capable of clarifying how I found myself in that position and what my beliefs are. One of the things that I think creates a lot of problems is when people engage in deliberate ambiguity. I don't want to hide my motives. I want to be very forthright with my motives. I think that I think one of the things that makes the Daily Wire successful is that we don't pander to our audience. I'm a lowercase r Republican. I believe that we're supposed to represent our audience and we're supposed to lead our audience. Yeah. And there's natural tension between those two premises, but in a correctly ordered approach, it's important. What people think they want, isn't actually always the thing that they do want. What people think is right in any given moment may not be right. If you pander to them, then obviously the criticism that's constantly thrown around about right-wing media that you're a grifter, well, it's true. If you only tell people what they want to hear so that you can make money off of them, you are in fact a grifter. If you tell people what you believe to be true, whether they agree with you or not, well, then you're hardly a grifter. You're telling the truth. I think the Daily Wire uniquely endeavors to accurately represent our audience, not betray the value of our audience, but also lead our audience and show them places where we have disagreement. And so, if the Pope is engaged in that kind of behavior, he can make that clear.
That's right.
He can tell us what he's doing. I like
that. Deliberate ambiguity. And by the way, am I reading it too much? And correct me, please. I won't be offended. If I'm getting a sense that you're encouraging the Pope to start a podcast, is that?
I think you'd call it a Popecast.
Okay, Popecast. I like it.
Yeah.
The number one podcast in the world, according to Spotify, past time Joe Rogan, is Popecast. He talks about his position with the show is called Deliberate Ambiguity.
That's so fun. But we can't just completely remove ourselves from people with whom we disagree. I'm not trying to present some false purity to the world. I have friends people who I care about deeply, who are on different sides of issues than I am. And we live in this moment where everyone wants to label you constantly. Everyone wants to figure out where you're impure so that they can expose your impurities to the world. I'm like, well, it's the entire basis of my belief system is to say, oh yeah, I'm impure. What's your point? About? I'm not hiding that.
Yeah. So Jim, I want to ask you a question. So it's funny you say that because we were at church on Sunday, and the main thing the pastor's thing was a seat at the table. So basically, it was like, I have nothing against anybody, Jeremy. I'll talk with anybody. I love everybody. Like even those people that were at the Vatican. Okay, I don't know the motive. I understand, but I wanted to ask you with this whole phenomenon that's happening. So first of all, 1 out of 4 high school kids identifies as LGBTQ. In America, from 2017 to 2021, Americans' youth receiving a diagnosis of gender dysphoria has tripled in 5 years. Even in England, the number of girls identifying as transgender skyrocketed 4,000%. 4,000% in 10 years. Do you think it's an organic phenomenon, Jeremy, or do you think that it's like a well thought out, implemented like social engineering? What is happening? Why is this movement taking off so hardcore?
Well, of course, as has been said by other people, it's a social contagion. It's a thing that can only exist in this moment of the internet, right? Where, young people can, and you see it. I mean, it's been well documented. If there's one trans kid in a school, suddenly there's 5 trans kids in the school, right? You're exposing people to this idea. And the power of a social contagion can reorder civilization itself. I mean, the Germans imported linen into Russia during the First World War, right? Like they knew here is an idea that can bring our enemies completely to their knees. This one bad idea. If you look at your own life, especially in the West, especially in America in the West, this isn't true. Somebody will come back and say, so you're saying people are starving to death in Africa because of a bad idea? Probably, but I'm not suggesting that they necessarily on a personal level would have the ability to have a better idea or to do anything about a better idea if they had it. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in America, in the West today. almost every problem you have in your life is a bad idea.
100%.
And so the power of a single thought to destroy a life is a thought is far more powerful than a nuclear bomb. And what we have going on in our culture today is the confluence of a small handful of terrible, terrible thoughts. The past is bad. There's no absolute truth. Only the individual matters in a sort of radical way. The collective exists to protect the feelings of the individual. And when you function in that milieu, you're so vulnerable to an idea like you are not what your body is. You are something other than what you are. You are software existing in hardware. Silicon Valley thinks you can upload yourself to a computer and that somehow that continues to be you, as though what you are isn't this. What you are is something ethereal, something that can't be conceived. You know, in the Christian tradition, there's a new heaven and a new earth and a new body. The Apostle Paul says one day we'll be tinted in something new. But you're not just a spirit occupying some hardware that can be interchanged. When you tell people that they are, then of course they're going to believe that if they're not connected to this at all, then what they truly are can only be described by them. And that's I think that's what's causing the 4,000% increase.
You know, it's crazy. You said something. He said the level of speed on how the culture changed from 2008 to 2012. 2008, a Democrat could not win being pro-gay marriage, right?
Yep.
And then in 2012, a Democrat could not win being anti-gay marriage. You had to be pro. What was the difference between 2008 and 2012? You talk about the whole fact that Will and Grace came out and became the top show. 15 million people are watching this and all this other. I thought it was fascinating, the point you made. And Will and Grace got people to say, what's wrong with this? What's wrong? The power of media, right? So the whole concept of what, we're all doing here, we're taking a different angle than you are.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.